All right, thank you for staying with us. The conversation shifts right now, and we go to God's own country, the United States of America, where new dynamics are being, thrown into what is happening as far as the presidential race of the U.S. is concerned. The two big weeks, heavyweight has been from the Republican side and the Democrat side. Former President uh, Donald Trump, of course, who escaped assassination a few days ago, and of course the current and incumbent president Joe Biden Jr. And yesterday he threw in the towel in the manner of speaking in that particular race to say no more continuing my pursuit to retain the seat at the White House, and he subsequently, endorsed his vice Kamala Harris. And an excerpt of that post from him says, "My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made history, a historic investment rather, in rebuilding our nation. And let me just move a bit forward. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intentions to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision." Many persons never saw that coming. Many did as well. But to shed more light into the matter this morning, we are joined by a resident of the country, and of course a journalist, and of course a friend of the house, Femi Olanipekun. He joins us from Connecticut this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Very well. Good to see you again, by the way.
Yeah, good to see you guys too.
Yeah, how do you receive that news? Let me ask you, did you see that coming, especially on the heels of what played out the debate, the CNN organized debate between Trump and Biden? Maybe that was where many persons feel, is this man really ready for this job? Did you see that coming, by the way?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I think it's a matter of when, not a matter of if, especially after the disastrous debate outing by President Joe Biden. If you check the reaction to the debate from traditional media supporters of the Democratic Party, and even the president, some of the president's most avowed supporters, you would know that the pressure will build, and at some point he will need to just cave in into that pressure. Right from after the debate, the polls showed that most Americans who had in a way nursed to some concerns about the ability, the capability of the president, his mental acuity, you know, many people got more worried. Democrats, supporters of the president, and Republicans who've been making some of this noise before. And so when it got to a head and you had senior Democrats also speaking in that light, Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, and then later on Barack Obama also saying perhaps the president may need to reconsider his stance, then you knew it was going to happen sometimes very soon. But I mean, no one knew when it was going to happen. I mean, some media organizations started preparing for this eventuality, making preparations for when the president would drop out of the race because they knew it was going to happen, but no one knew when it was going to happen. As of this morning, the president's men, his advisors, are still on television, still insisting that he's still on still in the race, and he kept it to his chest. He just called a few advisors, some of his closest confidants, and then his speechwriter in Delaware is, in Delaware trying to recuperate. He has COVID, so he's not been in the White House for some time. And so he just called him, some of them, just about 2 or 3 of them, and then they put a speech together and said he's going to address the nation later on. So for me personally, it's a matter of if, and now it's happened. It's a matter of when, rather, not a matter of if. It was evident that it wasn't going to survive the pressure. The pressure was too much. America places premium on the mental alertness of their president. You have to give up the gap to be able to lead the people here. You get involved in debate. You must be able to articulate your points, and very well too. I mean, the president is old, so evidently that's a major concern for most Americans. And after that debate, it was just,
Right.
his campaign sort of fell into a crisis, and it was a downward slope for him from there. The Democratic Party had to move in to salvage their own fortunes, and they found some level of unity against Donald Trump. Everybody, most of them really are scared of allowing someone like Donald Trump to get back to the White House again.
All right, so a lot of his party men called him a patriot, and let's talk about the endorsement that came with the announcement of his stepping down. He endorsed as Vice President Kamala Harris to, gone for the top seats. Did you see that coming as well?
Well, also, Kamala Harris is best placed to take over the ticket of the Democratic Party. It's going to be a logistical nightmare for any other person outside of Kamala Harris to succeed President Joe Biden as the nominee of the Democratic Party. Now, there's some other people who've been touted as possible replacements, but when you look at the time frame, it's just 106, 107 days to the election in November. You're looking at some of the financial requirements, who inherits the campaign funds that, Joe Biden has at the moment, about $96 million, dollars at the moment. Who can rally donors, who can rally the support base, who has the political brand at this moment at that level to step into that shoes. So naturally, it's going to be Kamala Harris, and sidestepping Kamala Harris would also pose some other problems for the Democratic Party. To mean, that means you're actually not comfortable with us as your vice president. So this past 4 years, it could mean it raised a lot of issues for them. It could be interpreted differently by Black voters. A sizable number of them naturally pitched their tent with the Democratic Party. So it was not surprising that President Biden decided to support Kamala Harris. And it's more surprising, though, for me that since that announcement, she has been able to rally the Democratic Party. A majority of the governors of the party have voiced their support, including those that many felt would challenge her at the convention later in August. The governor of California, where she comes from, Gavin Newsom, has called to pledge her support. The governor of Pennsylvania, another key, was thought to be a key contender, also pledged support. Leading legislators, in Congress, the only persons that have not voiced their support for her, registered their support for her, is former President Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi. You're talking about the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Chuck Schumer, and the Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries. These are just a few persons, notable persons that have not thrown in the support and mentioned the support for Kamala Harris. But it's expected that in the coming days and weeks, these men also will do same. The Democratic Party has little room to wiggle. They need to, get it sorted as soon as possible. They have little time to confront Donald Trump. So I think the convention will effectively be sort of a coronation, though that's another issue. Some also expressing some other concerns as to Joe Biden was the one that the Democrats elected in the primaries, voted for, and so all of this. But, it's a special situation, and Kamala Harris is just best placed to inherit whatever is left of the Biden campaign.
Okay, so speaking of the notable persons that are yet to endorse Kamala Harris, former President Barack Obama is one, which you also mentioned, and a lot of people actually looked forward, were expecting Barack Obama to endorse Kamala Harris when he acknowledged, or when he made a statement as to the stepping down of Joe Biden yesterday, but he didn't, because they felt that history would have been made if the first Black president of the U.S. would endorse, the first black vice president to become the first black president of the
Nominee,
United States
yeah.
of America. So a lot of people were looking forward to Barack Obama, endorsing Kamala Harris. Why do you think he is holding back doing that rather?
Well, it's not unusual, though it's also being viewed, from different lenses, different reactions to his decision not to endorse Kamala Harris as of yet. A praise to Joe Biden, whom he said he shared, remarkable friendship with and was his vice president for 8 years. But Barack Obama also was not quick in endorsing Joe Biden back in 2020. And for me, I think it's about positioning himself as sort of an elder statesman, rising above partisanship and trying to ensure that the party coalesces, agrees on a particular candidate before now stepping in. If at all there'll be some contention at the primaries, there's going to be some competition, and some actually favor that, saying the convention should not just be a coronation. There should be some competition to give some legality, to give some vitality to the candidacy of Kamala Harris. So I expect him to do that in the days and weeks ahead. But perhaps he also wants Joe Biden to have his day, because it's a huge decision. I think we've had just two of these in recent memory in U.S. history. 1952, Harry Truman saying he wasn't going to seek re-election, and then in 1968 also the president, then President Johnson, saying he wasn't going to seek re-election. So perhaps Joe Biden is going to be the third one passing up that opportunity, in a different circumstance now. But so perhaps. But Obama wanted Joe Biden to get a limelight, celebrate him. It's a difficult position. Situations. It's a difficult decision for him. He can't be the president of the free world. He can't be the number one person, one of the most powerful men in the world, and then you're forced to let go. In a manner of speaking, this is heavy pressure on him. He was forced to relinquish this opportunity. But I feel that Barack Obama, at some point, Nancy Pelosi, all of the other leaders of the Democratic Party will come full circle and definitely endorse Kamala Harris.
All right, before Femi comes back in, now let's talk about the strength of Kamala Harris. Hillary Clinton, at the time, went against Trump, and it was difficult for her to pull through. She was white, fully white. Now we have a Kamala Harris who is black, a black American. How difficult do you think it will be for Kamala Harris to win Donald Trump? Some Republican bigwigs have said that they have dismissed the candidature of Kamala Harris, saying that she is just a small fry compared to compared to a Joe Biden. Now, bringing a Kamala Harris to run instead of a Joe Biden, they think it's going to be an easy win for Donald Trump.
Well, American politics is complicated. But looking at it on the surface, this is going to be a test as to the appetite of the American electorate to make historic first. You made reference to the Hillary Clinton candidacy, how it was interpreted to me that Americans are not ready to have a female president. Now you have a potential, almost certain, female black president. She's female, now she's black also. Already some blacks are expressing concern that, well, expressing doubt as to if that will fly. But that would be a too simplistic way to look at it. Before today's announcement, if you check the polls, Kamala Harris was actually doing better than Joe Biden against Donald Trump. And she was performing very well in some of the traditional Democrat stronghold amongst black women, amongst younger voters, and all of that. But would that be enough to upset and defeat Donald Trump, who's been in the ascendancy? Everything seems to be working for him in the past few months, from the issues of the performance of President Biden not being coherent, to the issues of the failed assassination attempt on him. That gave him a lot of mileage. He's been in the ascendancy. The polling figures favor him. And also a number of other issues that are, very divisive here. The issue of the border, immigration. You have lots of, working class Americans supporting Donald Trump. So with Kamala Harris being a female, being a Black woman, would that be enough, the combination of that? But looking at some of her records, she's a prosecutor. So Democrats also will spin it in the coming days and weeks to be this election is between a prosecutor, a successful one at that one, against a convicted felon. Remember, Trump was convicted in the New York court just some weeks back. So it's going to be spinning that. We'll be looking at the records of Kamala Harris. You'll be looking at the fact that Kamala Harris is younger. So the Republicans, Donald Trump will not be able to use the age issue to taunt her like he did with Biden. Kamala Harris evidently will speak very well. I mean, speak better than Joe Biden. She will talk more about abortion rights, which is also going to be a key issue during this election. That resonates well more with with women. So all of those issues will come. But as of today, I've yet to personally, Trump still seems to have an edge, but it's 105, 106 states election. A lot of things can still happen, but it's not going to be a walk in the park, really. It's not going to be, what you just ride roughshod over Kamala Harris as the Republicans want it to be. But I mean, immediately 1 hour after the announcement, some of the campaign organizations of Donald Trump MAGA started releasing, campaign videos immediately on Kamala Harris. So you could see that they were prepared for this. They released one saying, well, she's also part of this. She was also part of the cabal that held Joe Biden hostage and like to conceal the fact that he wasn't mentally fit for for office. So, a lot will be seen in the months and days ahead.
Right. And, Femi, I must say, it's really, just like you said, it's an interesting one when you talk about politics generally, but it's more interesting and complicated. You have stated what happens, especially with politics in the U.S. It might not be as straightforward, as one might think. Now, two questions that are interwoven. Number one, let's talk about party supremacy here, and I want us to have it as a reflection of what happens back home here in Nigeria. He said, let me quote part of what President Biden said. He said, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to step down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. And that signifies party supremacy there. And, when we come back home here in Nigeria, we know what it is like. Yeah, we can tout party supremacy, but we know what really goes down. There has been, concerns, discomforting sentiment about his state of health, senility setting in for him, his mental, reasoning and the rest of it. And the party reined him in. And he said it in this post to say, my party is involved, I'm stepping down. What lesson do you think we can learn from that coming back home in Nigeria to say this is politics, you have your ambition, but then when there are some things that should not be taken likely is happening, we should rein in even as a party. Just a reflection of what is happening there and what we have usually had back home here in Nigeria.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting comparison you've done. Like you said, party supremacy and putting the interest of the nation at heart first. But more importantly, you hardly find a situation where the party is at the mercy of one person. The only situation we've had of recent that's similar to that is Trump upsetting the establishment in the Republican Party. Even those who are not in support, who are barreling critical of him, have come around because he seems to have just seized the neck of the party. But right here, the Democrats know that going into the polls with Joe Biden will almost mean them losing the election. It's guaranteed, that they're going to lose the election. And so almost every of the operatives, because the fortune of the presidential election in a way also impact on some of the other elections. So there are many senators There are many members of the House of Representatives who also be going to the polls. And the performance of Joe Biden will rub off on them almost also negatively. So many of them are also worried. And they're also looking at the fact that, I mean, one thing that unites them, because their politics is also very fractured. You have very divisive rhetoric. You have sometimes the splits down in the middle, even within the same party. There are those, the ideology, the political ideology is left and right. The right being the conservatives, the left being the liberals, the right being the Republicans, the left being the Democrats. But even within the same party, you have different opinions. You have some who are to the extreme right for the Republicans, some who are moderate, sort of center rights. The same for the left, extreme left, and then some to the center of the level who are moderate. But altogether, you hardly will see anyone having that domineering effect. There's some level of influence, of course. I mean, if you want to pick the Democratic Party ticket, you need the support of the Clintons, Obama. These are very influential figures. But when it comes to the fortunes of the party, the fortunes of the nation, they drop some of these personal issues. Joe Biden was prevailed upon a couple of times to drop his ambition. It wasn't happy with it, but then he had to. So in this case also, I'm sure as a human, he would have loved to, continue this race. But then the moment key party leaders started speaking out against it, Nancy Pelosi went on television twice to speak about the fact that there needs to be a reconsideration of this. Some of the senators started speaking out. You want to have a situation where an individual will walk against the fortunes of the party. We compare this to what happens like in Nigeria. You look at Wike, serving as a lot of demand on the PDP, walking openly against the fortunes of the party. And the party is handicapped. The party is weak. I mean, so ridiculous that they can't do anything. But here is someone who has not even worked against the trust of the party, but they just know that his position at the moment is untenable and could cost them the election. And he had to step down.
All right. I understand we must go. Yeah. It's an ongoing conversation, and we will be speaking with you, so much more in the course. In the coming days, by the way, because I will have wanted to ask, but that will be later, the choice, the endorsement of Kamala Harris, because so many characters, or individuals rather, have been thrown up as well. We are hearing Michelle Obama, other candidates as well. But then we would like to sincerely thank you, and we must appreciate you for joining us at this time, even regardless of the times difference, Thank you, Femi Olanipekun, a journalist, and of course, political analyst. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And that will be it on the conversation today. Many questions. And by the way, it's a developing story. The convention of the Democrats will still happen. So many things to talk about and lessons, if there is any to learn, about party supremacy and, of course, the love for the country superseding any other person's ambition. We take this break right now. And by the way, that will be for today. And of course, Femi Ojo is my name. We'll return tomorrow, for a fresh edition of the program.
All right, and I am Evelyn Ohiolei. Stay tuned for Spring Trends coming right after this broadcast.